my Siege Only Restart account has just entered KvK for the first time ever, and in today's video, I will be talking about this account. How is it doing? What is the account actually going to achieve? What can I expect from the account? And I will also be talking about my current KvK1. I will give my predictions on who will win. I will tell you all the allies and enemies and the current strongest kingdoms compared to the current weakest kingdoms in the KvK, while also discussing what KvK1 is actually looking like, since it's definitely been a while since a lot of players have been in KvK1, myself included. So if you want to know more about the current KvK1 format, you want to know about my Siege Restart account, or you just want to know about the upcoming KvK1 that I'm in, you want to stick around till the end of the video. So let's begin today's video by discussing what is my Siege Restart account, because if you're an older viewer of the channel, you may know what it is, but for you newer viewers, you probably don't know what my Siege Restart account is. And really simply, it's an account where I can only use Siege units on the open field to fight other players, and the main goal of it is to find out, is it viable to be a Siege main in Rise of Kingdoms? Can I use Siege from the early game until the late game? Because Lilith has been really pushing the endgame Siege commanders, but no one's going to want to be a Siege player if they won't work in the early game, and I aim to test that. I aim to find out if Siege are good early game, or if they're more of just a late game niche. So that is the main goal of this account, and the main restriction is I can only use Siege units, and that obviously restricts me a lot in terms of which commanders I can use on the open field, whether it be I can pretty much only use Joan and Matilda, and it also restricts me in terms of equipment because a lot of the Siege equipment is only available in Season of Conquest. So this account is really just an experiment to find out if Siege are very viable, and it's probably the only one of its kind currently in the game. So now that we know what the purpose of the account is, how is the account actually looking right now? And we'll start off with commanders and equipment, and really specifically we'll begin with commanders. And in terms of commanders right now, the account is in a pretty good position, because when I first made this account, I had one march in mind that would be able to maybe get me from the early game until Season of Conquest, and that is two epic commanders, really easy to access, Joan of Arc and Matilda of Flanders. They both bring a fair amount of stats to the open field. Joan has the integration and support tree and gathering tree, so she's got a lot of siege stats between all the trees that she's running, especially in terms of march speed on the gathering tree. She's got around 18% of stats, on expert design. She's got even more stats on defensive formation, so she's bringing the talent tree I need, and most of her stats in terms of her skills are fairly generic, so I can get value from her skills and value from her talents as well. In terms of Matilda, the reason I'm using her is because her active skill has some damage factor to it, and also she's got an okay attack reduction, but mainly it's for her third skill, which actually gives me 60% of stats, which is definitely more than pretty much any early game commander by like a long shot. So she is bringing a ton of early game stats, which is really, really good, and I think it's going to be one of the main things in her kit that allows me to actually perform well this KvK. So when I looked at all the commanders available, the only march that really made sense was the Joan of Arc and the Matilda, and all I needed to run this march was a 5-1-5 Matilda, which I'm almost at. I just need one more skill on her first and third skill. And in terms of Joan of Arc, I needed to expertise her, and she is almost there. Within the next couple of days, she should be expertised and ready to go, and Matilda should also be ready to go by the time fighting actually begins. Now, in terms of equipment though, we're not in as good of a position, because when I first made this account, I didn't really account for the fact that equipment is only available in Season of Conquest. I thought that the Siege equipment was available throughout the whole entire game, but that is just not the case. Every single piece of Siege equipment is Season of Conquest only, not even Season 3, just Season of Conquest, which is obviously going to be very difficult, and the only thing that it's pretty much going to be a benefit here is I can stash a ton of materials, but besides that, my account is lacking in a lot of equipment right now, because I'm running 4 pieces of epic equipment, which I purchased in a bundle when the account first began. I don't have a single accessory, and I don't have any legs and no boots, so that is definitely bad for the account currently. What I'm going to hope to do is over the next couple of days, I'm going to try and get the Call of Loyal from the Lost Canyon, so that will at least give me some march speed that's going to do something on the open field. And then I'm also going to try and get just 2 blue gathering pieces, because if you didn't notice, the gathering pieces actually do give you some siege stats. You can see here, the legs give me 6% of stats, the boots give me 4%, so I am getting some siege stats. It's not too amazing, but it is better than nothing, so I'm going to try fill in those slots over the next maybe 2 to 3 days. So equipment is not the best, but it will be there very soon, and I don't think it has much endgame potential, but it's what I'm going to be stuck with. So my equipment is definitely in a poor position, which is not good for the account. So now that we know what my commanders are looking like, how is the actual account itself looking? Because I would never really discuss the city on an endgame account, but since this account is really early game and it's really important in the early game to have good technology and have a good city hall level, then it does matter. And really simply, this account is a little bit behind. I was slacking at some point in terms of gathering resources, especially. I could barely train troops since I was so low on resources, but as you can see, I'm definitely back, basically filling up that stash hold once again. So my current on-hand resources are okay. My tokens are pretty lackluster because, well, developing a city really early game is freaking expensive, and that used up a lot of my tokens, especially recently when I trained a ton of troops. I used a lot of my tokens, which is definitely something that's going to harm me in the KvK, but with early game accounts, it's very difficult to properly prepare for a KvK1 if you aren't as active as I would want to be. So I'm not as active as I'd want to be on this account, and as such, it is a little bit behind in terms of resources, especially. In terms of technology, I'm not too sure. I think this is an okay level. I mean, it's a little bit behind on combat tactics in defensive formation and herbal medicine. I would like those three technologies to be a little bit higher. I do have a fair amount of speed ups on hand. I mean, I could definitely finish this infantry technology right now and then start working on these other technologies, but I don't think it's 100% necessary yet. I think I can hold out for a little bit longer, especially once we get basically better runes and I can access the 15% research rune. I might start to do some of these more elaborate technologies, and I'm going to go back and grab enhanced axle at some point as well, just because it's going to give me 4% defense for a fairly cheap cost, which is really nice. So technology right now, it's okay, could be better. I would like to try and work into ballistics and heavy frame, maybe by the end of the KvK, but for now, I think that it's in an okay position, and I'm going to continue to work on it as time goes on. Now, in terms of how many troops I have, it's kind of low. I definitely need more siege units. I'm only sitting at 73,000, and for a full march, I'm going to need like 160,000, which is definitely a lot more than I currently have, but I have a fair amount of training speed-ups on hand. I think I could maybe train another 10 to 20,000 siege units. That would definitely be possible, and my speed-ups in terms of generics is also pretty decent right now. So if I needed to train more troops, I definitely have the capabilities of doing it. But for now, I'm going to try and hold off until I get a higher level siege workshop. I don't know if that's going to be really achievable within the next couple of days, but for now, I may have to run some T3 on the open field, maybe even some T2, but mainly T4 and T3 will be run because I don't have enough T4 siege. I just don't have enough, and I'm going to have to train more as the KvK goes on. But eventually, I will have a full march of siege units to go with my commanders. And since I'm only City Hall 23, I don't need as many troops as if I was City Hall 25, which is a downside, but also in some ways an upside, so I don't have to train as much, but I'm going to still need a fair amount of troops for the open field. So now that we know how the account is actually looking and the commanders for the account, what are my expectations for the account? What can I expect from this KvK? And really simply, I don't know what to expect, because when I look at an account like this, it's so unique and so one of its kind that no one's ever done it before. I can't even benchmark myself compared to anybody. So what can I expect for the account? Pretty much nothing. But what can I hope for the account? At least 30 to 50 million kill points. I want to be maybe a higher power than I currently am by the end of the KvK. And in terms of dead troops, I don't actually want to get that many. I know that might sound weird. Why do I not want to kill troops? Well, I would rather throw them at a KvK2 rather than a KvK1. Especially since right now, I don't have many troops in my, basically, arsenal. I've got like 20,000 archers, 8,000 cavs, and 70,000 siege, which I'm not going to kill any siege. So really, I've got 20,000 archers and 8,000 cavs to kill. So I'm not going to get many deads by the end of the KvK, and that's pretty much just how it's going to go. I'm not going to get many deads. I don't know what kill points to expect, but I can hope for 30 to 50 million kill points, and I might only end up with like 100,000 dead troops at the absolute maximum. So now that we know all about my account, what can we expect from the KvK? Because my account is pretty useless in comparison to the KvK. And quickly, with the allies, I'm in Kingdom 3273, we're allied with Kingdom 3275, and Kingdom 3274 is allied with Kingdom 3276. What can I expect from the KvK though? Well, I think we're going to win by quite a lot, and the reason I say that is because the pre-KvK performance from our kingdom was pretty good. I mean, we basically won by, I think, almost 100 million points, and then our allies beat 3276 by almost, I think, another 200 million points, because 3276 is a really small and much more inactive kingdom than 3275. So not only are we more active and probably outnumber 3274, even though they are a rising kingdom, we have got stronger allies. So I think this KvK is probably not even going to be close for 3274 unless they are really, really powerful. But we can see their top alliance, we've got one that's literally just only 100 million power behind them. And then their second strongest alliance, we've got one that's a little bit below that, but still we've got two alliances up there that are fairly close to 3274. And even below that, we're pretty much tied in terms of overall power. They've just got a small edge on us, and since we've probably got more activity and more players overall, I believe that we have a better chance of winning the KvK. Another thing that also really drives this home for me is the fact that our starting zone is literally full of forts. If you see how many forts are in here, that's insane. But when you look at 3274, there's only 3 forts. That's it. That's like pretty much it. Actually 4. We count this fort, that's 4 forts. We have got like I think 6 in total across the whole entire starting zone, 7 maybe. So we definitely have a lot more numbers compared to them. And numbers do win a KvK, even if it's just someone with a Dragon Lancer. That Dragon Lancer may tank AoE, which helps you basically take less deads and take less sevs, which is good for your kingdom. So I believe that we're going to win this KvK by quite a lot, and especially since we've got 3275 on our side, and 3274 is with 3276, which is a much weaker kingdom. This is their top alliance. Then we can probably expect to win this KvK by quite a massive landslide. Now, the final thing that we have to discuss is what are all the new changes with KvK1, because the last time I played KvK1 was at least 2 years ago, and since then, the whole entire map has changed, the whole entire way it works has changed, the whole entire meta for Rise of Kingdoms has changed. So, what differences have I noticed in KvK1? And the first one is, there is a whole kingdom technology section. This never existed before, and it's pretty cool. You get faster gathering speed, which is needed to develop a newer account. You get a ton of action point recovery, which is also nice. You can burn flags quicker and also get more HP on flags. And then there's just literally base stats for all of your troops, which is really, really cool. So I think this KvK technology is a pretty good step, especially the gathering speed and the action points. That is going to help a newer account develop really fast, which is obviously going to be a valuable thing. So I am quite a fan of this kingdom technology, and if you're in an active kingdom, you get rewarded more because the more active the kingdom, the quicker you get stuff such as more gathering speed, and then you can access the rest of this tree, which A, allow you to trade better in combat, and B, allow you to develop your account much quicker. So I am quite a fan of this kingdom technology, and I think that this should probably be something they should implement in more endgame KvKs, because we see it in KvK1 and we see it in KvK3. Why don't we see it in any Seasons of Conquest? The next few changes I noticed are much more related to the territory and the layout of the Lost Kingdom, because the first thing I noticed is there's not too much open field flag building and rallying until later into the KvK, because when we look at how the pass is open, Pass 4 is the first one to open, and it opens up into an ancient ruins, which you can't build any flags in there. It is all just open field fighting, and then after that, we get Zone 5 to open up, and every single kingdom gets their own Zone 5. There is no fighting over it because every single one gets one, and no one's going to be fighting over Zone 5 until later into the game. After Zone 5, though, Pass 6 opens, and they are semi-protected, so still no one can enter your Zone 5. But the thing is, with these semi-protected passes, you're sharing it against another kingdom. So this is where the first open field fighting with flags and rallies will actually begin, inside of the Zone 6. So it's going to be quite a while till we see real open field fighting, and I think this was a deliberate choice by Lilith, because when we look at these early game accounts, there is not many troops to kill, there is not many resources in the Alliance to properly build flags, so moving that into a later stage of the KvK is definitely a good choice. It allows players to develop their accounts a lot more, which is definitely a good thing, because you're not going to enjoy a KvK if you're fighting against other players who have much better accounts than you from either spending money, or you're not going to enjoy a KvK if you can't do any open field fighting at all because you are just too weak. So I think that moving down these things such as pass rallies and basically real open field fighting into a later stage of the KvK is definitely a smart move and will make the KvK a lot more enjoyable for newer players, because if you can't properly fight, it's not fun, but when you can properly fight, it will be much more fun and much more enjoyable. Now, after these Zone 6s comes the Pass 7, and really simply, it is just the King's Land fight. And what I can see here is that it may take quite a bit longer for the Great Ziggurat to open, because in your Pass 7 is also your Altar of Darkness. So I don't know why Lilith decided to put Altar of Darkness in King's Land. I couldn't really see a reason why this is the case. It just means, though, that the winners will get more honor. So there is more of an incentive to actually win the KvK as well, because not only do you get ended KvK rewards, but you also get access to Altar of Darkness, like 4 of them, which is really, really good, and it's going to allow the winners to grind a lot more honor and possibly earn some of those higher ranked rewards for their whole entire kingdom and even for themselves. So if you want good individual honor, you need to do events such as the Altar of Darkness, and the winners will only be able to access that. So that is one upside to winning the KvK, and it does make players want to win a little bit more. And I think that is definitely, once again, a fairly smart move, and it might make the KvK a little bit more, not necessarily enjoyable, but more weight on that KvK, because without something to actually win for, not many players really care about the Kingsland fight. But since there is literally honor points to be won here, a lot more players might be more interested, and it also gives people more of a reason to stay in Kingsland. So now that we've really looked over the whole entire KvK1, I can say pretty confidently that it looks like a fairly good KvK for beginning accounts, because a new account can't really afford to fight as much as an older account, because when you're a new account, if you fight a lot, you're definitely going to stunt the developing of that account, which is not a good thing, and it's going to damage you later in the game. So I think that this KvK seems a lot more laid back in its format. It's not as intensive as it used to be, because back in the day, you would start off the KvK and Zone 4 opens, you're instantly in open field, flag fighting, rallying, swarming flags, swarming cities. It all just instantly hits, but at least the way that this KvK is set out, it comes much slower. The fighting begins over a gradual period of time. There is no open field fighting within the first 2 to 3 weeks. It seems like a much better way to transition an account into a fighting account, rather than just throwing them in the open field and saying, good luck, here you go, and get yourself zeroed, or swarm a bunch of flags and lose a ton of troops and don't know the mechanics of the game. Doing this slow and more gradual introduction into the KvK is going to be a really effective way to A, allow players to learn more, and B, make the KvKs a lot more enjoyable. So I am really excited for it, and the KvK technology makes it much easier to develop an account. So I also have to give Lilith credit there, because that is one very, very strong boost. So now that we've made it to the end of the video, I would just like to say one quick thing. This account is really only funded by you guys. The only reason I'm doing this account is because of your support. So if you want to see me continue doing my Siege restart, all you need to do is subscribe to the channel. It is literally free, and YouTube really likes it, I really like it and appreciate it, and this account is going to benefit from it, because every single time someone subscribes, it allows me to justify spending money on this account to actually make it powerful and ready for the open field. So if you're interested in seeing this Siege Restart account on the open field, or you just want to support me as a content creator, please do consider subscribing. And to all the people who are currently subscribed, a massive thank you. And to all the people who just subscribed, a huge thank you as well. Now, I just want to say thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.